Hello, everyone. This is Ari Copel with Shattering the Matrix. I am starting a series called Spiritual Warrior Pep Talks and Updates on what is happening in the world and pep talks about how we can be involved, become proactive, and make a difference. I wanted to start the series by speaking a little bit about a post or a couple of posts actually that I saw on Facebook that addressed the idea that Hollywood is, not such a bad thing, or that we are um, overstating the fact that Hollywood is bad, satanic, dark, into adrenochrome. Basically, the gist of the posts were something like, well, not all actors are bad. Well, of course not. And that is with any industry, with any field, anywhere in life, there's a good and a bad to everything. But I did want to address the fact that when you say the word or the term Hollywood, that equates to the film industry. And the film industry is notorious for evil, okay, for evil doings, for bad conduct, for a lot of immoral acts and just degenerate type of acts. Um, and that could be seen anywhere. That's also true in the music industry. Um, Although the music industry doesn't have a term like Hollywood, I think the music industry could be Nashville, could be LA. It could happen anywhere, maybe even New York City. But I guess Hollywood is coined only because most of films are made there. So, but believe me that the music industry is equally as corrupt and disgusting in terms of what they're putting out there. Just take a look at some of the videos and the things that they put in halftime shows, the CMA Awards, the Grammys. It is absolutely vile and promoting satanic worship. It's you can't deny that. So just to make sure that we understand that if somebody's talking that Hollywood is part of the problem, it is part of the problem. Are there exceptions to the rule? Yes. There are many great actors out there that, well, they might have been great at one time, and now they've all of a sudden kind of like disappeared, in the sense that they're not really as notorious, as famous. Maybe they are older, or they just decided not to participate anymore. But I have to tell you about Hollywood, though. Hollywood is really, really good about um, getting you hooked into, quote, selling your soul, unquote, to the devil. All right. In other words, you need to play their game in order to make it somewhere in there. Understand that there's a lot of competition. I used to be in acting many, many, many years ago. I used to do theater. I was extras in film. I knew several well-known actors. That was the path that I wanted to take, and my father was really against it. I did not like him very much during that time. But you know what? He knew something somehow in his soul that really put the brakes on me, even though I was totally against that idea of not allowing me to explore my talents. I would have been probably down the path of a lot of these actors probably having to do things that I really did not want to do in order to get ahead. Again, you do that because there's so many people wanting to become actors and well known that they're willing to do anything to do that. It's their golden ticket to fame and fortune and everything else. So they probably justify it. It's like it's the price that they have to pay. It's what they have to do in order to be able to make it. Um, so yes, it is not a very you know, Christian based or faith based type of industry whatsoever. Um, and a person does have to do things in order to make it or to be at least noticed. And then once you notice, you have to do more. And then, once you do more and you get to that level and you want to be an A-lister, well, you've got to do more. And they have you doing that perpetually. Um, and if you if you are selling your soul that way and willing to do things like they do, which is, a lot of them go to these elite parties and they do things there that are absolutely horrible. I mean, just absolutely disgusting, vile, horrible, uh, from, eating flesh, drinking blood. And this is not something that I'm just putting out there. Just do the research. There's videos of models or a model that actually was invited to one of these parties and she was not aware that they were eating a person, So that is caught on video. I'm going to have to find it and see if I can attach it to this particular podcast. But yes, just do the research and be open-minded enough to know that yes, there are some things out there that are um, made up, and there's other things out there that are not. But when you see a lot of these elites and music stars and Hollywood stars getting in front of the stage and dressing up like satanic creatures, all the, with blood all over them and just looking as if they're having orgies. Well, there's something that is totally opposite from what we know as being godly. And so that should be your first sign right there. Now, there's also the fact that some of these actors or actresses, maybe even people in the music industry, might have participated at some level, and then they decided, you know what, this is terrible. In other words, their conscience kicked in, and now they don't want to do this anymore. You have people that know about stuff like this, maybe like Mel Gibson and what's his name, Schroeder, Ricky Schroeder, I believe his name is, another one that witnessed stuff like that. And they come forward and, now they're speaking about it. But at some point they had to say, you know what, I'm not participating in this anymore. So guess what happens? Their career tanks. It completely tanks. They become has-beens, right? They're has-beens. You hear about their name. It's like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? Well, more than likely they grew a conscience and they just said, you know what, I don't really want this. I don't want to have to do this, and I don't want fame and fortune more than I want my soul to be saved when I pass to the other through the pearly gates. So I am not participating anymore. And so they become has-beens, their career tanks, and or they are suicided and or they just disappear. You don't know what happens to them. They kind of abruptly die, and then, or they fake their own deaths and they kind of like disappear into the wilderness. They may still be alive, but they just, wanted to not be around the limelight anymore because they didn't want to have to participate and continue doing what they had to do in order to stay in the limelight. So that's the situation with Hollywood. It is real. As you can see, all the pictures and things of these people that we are all familiar with, Madonna, Beyonce, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, and so on and so forth. Even Rihanna's part of it. But there's a whole bunch of other names that just don't come to mind right now that are participating in this. If you could look at some of the um, Academy Award what do you acceptance speeches? Some of them are thanking Satan. And this is several actors that have done that. They have no problem doing this anymore because they have to show loyalty and they have to show that the gratitude to that being or demon that has given them their fame and fortune and ability to own their 20 cars and the big 20,000 square foot home in Malibu or whatever they're, whatever it is. So, yeah, that's part of it. And then, of course, they have to recruit as well. So, they have no problem, again, putting that stuff out. I wanted to talk too about organ harvesting. I didn't really go in depth into it the last time. I had my own podcast with Deborah Janice on the Beacon podcast, but organ harvesting is a major player in terms of industry, right? When it comes to trafficking, because when a child is abducted, it could be a child, it could be an adult. They're trafficked. They make money at a certain point in time. Their body starts wearing out, or they get sick, or they just can't survive the kind of brutality that goes on. So the last portion of the lifespan of that product, which happens to be, let's say in this case, a child, would be the organ harvesting. So they go through the sex trafficking. They could also go through labor slavery. They could go through the adrenochrome production. And the last thing that happens to that child when they can't grab any more stuff out of them, then they do the organ harvesting. So organ harvesting could be, again, a child, could be a person. They get the organs and the parts again from the trafficked people, trafficked children. They could get it from soldiers that are, prisoners. So they'll get it from there. I know that there's been reports where Ukraine prisoners as well as Chinese prisoners, some of them have undergone the organ harvesting. And you have to understand too that it's done without any anesthetics. I don't know why. I guess they figured the person's going to die anyway, I guess, and why waste anesthetics on it, So I don't know. So that's one way they get it. Another way that they get their product is through abortions. So no wonder they're pushing abortions so strongly, and this particular administration is so pro-abortions. It's, of course, my body, my choice, but now it's being pushed on, everybody where, God forbid a person goes in front of an abortion clinic and prays because, you can't even pray for the soul of that child or for even the soul of the lady or the woman who's going in there and getting an abortion and with hopefully that the prayer changes her mind. No, that's bad because we want to make sure that that person goes and gets the abortion. Why? Because we need the parts. We need the organs. We need all of it. Because from that, we're going to sell, the fetal tissue. We can do cosmetics with it. We can do maybe food flavoring. I mean, whatever they use it for. I mean, they use it for all kinds of things. And so that's how they're getting the product cheap. So they don't want their production line to be stagnated, all right, by somebody protesting. And they want to make sure that a lot of people, have sex freely and they have no responsibility afterwards instead of having that child maybe go full term and be able to maybe be put into a foster home or even for adoption where it can be given a good home. They go ahead and kill it because they need the parts. They're also, just so you know, in Australia, this former Australian Special Forces commander by the name of Ricardo Bossi stated that in Australia, they passed a full-term abortion law. So full-term abortions are legal, but how is that an abortion? I mean, if it's full-term, then it's a birth. what they're doing is they're killing it probably on the way out. They're sucking out the brain, from the way he explains it. They create some kind of like a puncture wound, and it goes right into the brain, and they suction it out, and then so everything collapses, the head collapses, and they just pull it out like it's a piece of tissue. It's horrible. It's murder. And so these aborted full-term children don't receive any birth certificates. They don't receive a death certificate either because it's not born. And technically, it didn't die. It was killed, before. They consider it medical waste. But of course, we know it's not waste, right? Because they use it and they reuse it for other purposes. Um, and here's another way they get parts and organs and whatnot. There's a guy called, well, his name is Cedric Lodge. Apparently, he was either the director or manager of the Harvard Medical School morgue or something like that. But anyway, the medical school would receive donated cadavers for the medical school so that the medical students could practice on it. But this guy was taking these cadavers, he was stealing them and then dissecting them and selling the parts to customers, like people, he had his own clientele where they would go ahead and buy the skin, the bones, arms, legs, livers, brains, whatever it would be. His organization, I think it was made up of about 7 to maybe 10, maybe more people. And I'm not really familiar whether it was just here in the United States or worldwide, but he had a huge organization. He was just recently arrested. But I promise you that if this guy's doing it, more people have thought of it. And now that, this is exposed, more likely there are going to be copycats saying, oh, wow, look, this is another part that, another way we can make money is getting cadavers that are donated or, stealing them from who knows where. So that is another part of the thing. And then I wanted to touch briefly upon the three-lettered agencies, specifically one agency that starts with a letter C, like Charlie, that has been involved apparently in child trafficking, child abduction, and it's not just child trafficking, but child sex trafficking, as well as satanic rituals with or sacrifice, satanic sacrificing of children. And this has been exposed through an FBI file called The Finders. And it can't be found online, where these files have been put on a website from the FBI, where there's been several incidents of child abductions and whatnot, and then the culprit has been this three-lettered agency. The FBI has not done anything about it because the three-lettered agency had a reason to do this. And one of the reasons, they say, is that they are able to, with this child sex trafficking, capture some diplomats and heads of states and presidents and prime ministers and whatever, get them on camera doing this, and then of course they can use it to blackmail them and do things like that. So that is your three-lettered agency. Take a look at it. You can check it out online under QINTEL, so qintel.pro, Pro, / satanic-pedophiles with an S at the end. So qintel.pro / satanic-pedophiles. I'll also put the link in the description for this podcast. And lastly, what I'd like to say is to get involved. We are all part of something much bigger. All right. We are custodians of this planet. A lot of us come from higher realms. We know who we are. Our job here is not so much to prepare ourselves for a fifth dimensional event. In other words, an Earth that is going into fifth dimension, um, wanting to escape, this particular drama that's going on because, we don't need to participate because we're leaving. We're going to become fifth dimensional beings. But, I hate to break the news, but a lot of us, if you're not really in tune to who you really are and where you really come from and how old your soul really is and how much you really know, you're going to think that going to a fifth dimensional reality is like going to Disney World, like it's all that. When in reality, you might be coming from a seventh dimensional reality. You may be coming from a 10th dimensional reality. And going to a fifth dimensional reality is no big deal. You've already done that. So what's the hype, right? The fact that you're here into this really difficult world and you're going to get out and make it to the fifth dimension, when you've already perfected that level and you've gone beyond it, it baffles me. It's like I'm not sure why. And I'm trying to get you all to get a little bit more in tune to who you really are, because in reality, you probably are much more advanced than what you think. And a lot of us have been dummied down by the rhetoric, by the language, by the some of it false teachings of a new age spirituality that has kept you really asleep. And you really think that you're awake based on the knowledge that they've given you to hold on to. But in reality, that is just information like a virus to keep you inactive, to keep you placated, complacent, to keep you totally ineffective, dormant, and happy. If you sit under a coconut tree and you meditate all day long and you eat what you think is organic food and you drink your little kombucha or what is it, kombucha, whatever it's called. I don't drink it. I just don't particularly like the taste. But anyway, yeah, if you drink that, all these, very sophisticated so-called elevated, spiritually elevated things that you think you're gonna hit nirvana pretty soon. It's just keeping you your head in the ground, not wanting to see what's going on around you when you could have probably done a lot to help change the whole energy, the whole narrative of what's going on in the world right now, where so many people are suffering. So many people are suffering. And when it happens to you, and then it happens to the next person, and the next person, the next person, and all of us collectively who made a conscious decision to come into a really dense planet like this one and take all the hits, because boy, life isn't easy. A lot of drama, a lot of tears, a lot of emotional, spiritual, and physical pain that comes in being in a place like this. This is definitely no Disney World, right? At all. It's definitely not an amusement ride by any means. It's probably a haunted house, okay, if it's going to be an amusement ride. But we've come here for a purpose. And I'm hoping that doing these pep talks that we can remember who we are a lot quicker and feel more empowered to step in and join this war, because it's a war. It's a spiritual war using physicality to hold this whole paradigm together, to hold it in place, to hold it hostage. This is becoming, well, the whole purpose of it is to make it a demonic realm, like altogether, like there is no light left. And we're allowing it to happen. How? By our silence, by our lack of participation, by not even wanting to look at it, because by looking at it, we are told by our gurus and our new age leaders or whatever, whomever you're listening to, maybe a channeled message. By looking at it, we are bringing it into reality. We're manifesting it into our reality. Well, if a lot of you are not looking at it, which is evident that that is the case, then, you know, how is it then manifesting? How is it that it's so ingrained in this particular 3D reality where everybody's experiencing globally? If so many of you so-called enlightened people are not looking at this so that you don't manifest it, why has it manifested? Because a lot of us are. Well, then, you know, if a lot of us are, is because we are conscious of what is happening and we are responsible. And yet we can't do this alone. We cannot, the ones that are aware of it and are calling it out and saying no to it may not be enough of us to stand up and hold this terrible dark forces back. We need all of us to be on board. We need all of us to grow a backbone and stop being fearful that, you know, because I don't want to look at these ugly things. Well, you've got to, because we allowed it to happen by our silence. We've consented to it, unfortunately. And a lot of us are still in denial of it. We want to drink our kombucha, you know, and eat our organic food, which is now contaminated with chemtrails, by the way. So it's no longer organic. And yet here we are, you know, by not looking at it, the dark side has put that into the narrative of the New Age spiritual, you know, teachings, so that we would not rise up, alert others, awaken others, so that we could all do something about it in the spiritual realms, right? We could do it in the spirit. The war is in the spiritual realms. It's in the physical realms. It's in different dimensions. And we, as beings coming from higher dimensions, coming in, are able to fight these wars and battles and whatnot multidimensionally. But when we're stuck here thinking that we're going to graduate from here going into a fifth dimensional, some people even think it's fourth dimensional, even worse. And they're all excited about that. So when we're doing that, folks, we have been conned royally. I mean, royally. And I'm hoping that you all wake up to this reality and decide to do something. One of the things that you can do is to get empowered. Start connecting to your source, to your creator. Know that, you know, you are energized and empowered by a much higher consciousness, a much higher level of creation than the one that is here. And we are infused by that. We have all the molecules, the electrons, everything that comes from that original source. But you've got to be aware of it. And then you also have to embrace it and move in the world, you know, as if, it's not as if because it is, but as if you know that this is the absolute truth. Your power comes from a much higher source. So therefore, there's really no need to fear anything. A lot of us don't want to participate in these battles or to confront this evil because they're afraid of getting nicked, you know, remember, a lot of it is not in the physical sense nicked, but a lot of it too, you can get nicked spiritually. My suggestion is to get empowered by installing different levels of protection. If you haven't checked out my book, just out of curiosity, just go ahead and check it out. Go to Amazon.com. You can even check out at Barnes & Noble, pick up a copy, or just go ahead and read the reviews. But the book, it's called Getting Back to Source, Tools for Connection, Protection, and Empowerment. And it's going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to install these levels of protection, because there are different levels of protection and each one is a different layer, You have different layers that will totally shield you and even cloak you from the dark forces, from psychic forces. So it protects you from physical, mental, emotional, psychic attacks. So these are the tools that you're going to need in order to be able to navigate this world that is getting darker and darker and denser every single day. Because as we are talking and debating whether my knowledge is greater than yours and whether I got mine from, Commander so and so from the Ashtar Command, or I got it from some channeled information, while we're debating that, the dark forces have their stuff together and they're getting all their goons together on the same page, and they're rolling their plan out. And it's not even, hidden anymore. They don't even care that because at this point, we are so dumbified in every single level, through the food, through the dummy down, that we are receiving, erroneous information from our spiritual guides, if we want to call that, where it's dummying us down. And again, making us total nebbishes and complacent, to the point that we just want to be in nirvana all day long without participating here and helping those that are suffering through the trafficking, through abductions, through brutalizations, that happen when they're sodomizing children, through organ harvesting without any anesthetics, just out of compassion. They're not even doing that. All these things that are happening in the world that are absolutely horrible, they're going to get even worse. Okay, this is just a taste of the things to come, because it's going to be magnified pretty soon. It's exponentially rolling out while we are doing absolutely nothing. So I am praying that you all hear this message, that you take it to heart, that you feel that, yes, you are heeding the call, that you're going to do something, because the buck stops with you, and it stops with all of us, because all of us need to rise up together, get on the same page, and learn how to navigate these waters without any fear, because ultimately we go back to where we come, and hopefully we've earned our stripes and we go beyond where we came from. But the point is that we need to have the compassion, not just to be able to be of service to self, but we need to be of service to others. And in this case, it's got to be humanity, and specifically the children, because the children are the closest to God, and they're the next generation to be able to bring humanity to the highest level, hopefully a level that is installing godliness back into this planet. So I hope that that this message, hits home, that it resonates with you. And please, feel free to leave a comment. Don't leave, negative things in the comments. Let's keep this positive. Join us at shatteringthematrix.com. It's the website that talks about all these world problems and situations, what keeps us prisoners in this matrix, and what gets us out of it. I want it to become a place where we can speak about things and come together in as kindred spirits, and also empower one another. So join us again, shatteringthematrix.com. Share and like this particular channel and this podcast. And I hope to see you soon, or at least talk to you soon, in the next empowerment session. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.